So I guess how were you able to not identify as your diet? Because you see that a lot in that community, to be able to say, hey, this isn't serving my body in the best way, and to be able to adapt. Sorry if that you can hear my husband's computer's ringing right now. I forgot to.
Oh, I can't hear it, but
Oh,
it's all
awesome.
good.
Good.
It's a good question. So in the beginning, I was not able to adapt. I was very dogmatic. As a vegan in 2012, I was very dogmatic. I was telling all my friends they're killing the planet and killing animals. You got to be a vegan. And the truth was that I didn't feel that well. My hormones were off, and I did it for 15 months straight. Even though I was very dogmatic, I knew something was off. Your intuition is your intuition. Like, it knows more than your dogmatic approach. At least for me, it was. So I did lab work, and it showed that a lot of things were wonky. My testosterone was tanked, and everything was wonky. So at that point, I wanted to figure out, all right, if the vegan diet is not for me, what is? And I started to look at what I call ancient healing strategies. These are nutrition and dietary or lifestyle strategies that have been around to stand the test of time. And keto is one of them. A lot of people think keto is new. It is not new. And I don't look at keto as a diet. I look at it as a metabolic process. And all of our ancestors did ketosis. Facts. They also did fasting. And when you fast, you go into ketosis. It's the only reason, not the only reason, it's one of the reasons why our ancestors survived, is because of the ability to burn body fat and have that liver produce ketones so they could stay focused and alert to hunt and kill. If it wasn't for that, we probably wouldn't exist. So when I hear people say keto stupid, that's like saying, a metabolic process is stupid, and it's not. But even when I did keto, I was still dogmatic. I was telling everybody they got to do keto, they got to do intermittent fasting. And eventually I started to just become aware of the things I was saying for my community. And I started to realize that there's no perfect diet. It's not about the diet. It's really about metabolic flexibility. That is more important than dogma. So when I thought about that when it comes to keto, I thought, okay, most people don't have metabolic flexibility, meaning they're just burning sugar, burning glucose. As a matter of fact, there was a study that came out in 2018 from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. 10-year study, over 8,000 people, and their goal in the study was to determine how healthy or how unhealthy is the adult American population. So they looked at blood pressure, BMI, different metrics, and their conclusion was 88% of American adults are metabolically unhealthy, metabolically inflexible. And that was before COVID. It got worse after. So essentially, these people are in a keto deficiency. They need to burn fat and then go back to sugar. So I see the opposite, though, in the keto space. And I start to recognize this, that, all right, people went from burning sugar to burning fat, but now they're only burning fat, and they're like keto forever, carnivore forever. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense, because our ancestors, yeah, they all did keto, but they also flexed out. When they had carbs available, they didn't say like, we don't eat that, bro, we're keto. No, they ate it, right? So I started to kind of put that together, and I thought, it's not about keto long term. It's about flexing in and out, and that's where I wrote the book, Keto Flexing. So I'm a big fan of keto, but not long term. I'm a big fan of carnivore, not long term. It's all about the metabolic flexibility, not being dogmatic.
So how do you flex out without putting on a ton of weight? Because I see that as a common complaint with someone that has a very rigid diet. It's if they're all keto, if they're all carnivore, if they're all whatever it is, as soon as they add something that their body's not used to, they immediately store it.
Yeah, there's a proper way to do it, right? So in my book Keto Flex, I have a 4-pillar approach. So pillar 1 is called adapt, because it's getting the person fat adapted. Pillar 2 is called fast, because it's implementing intermittent fasting strategies. Pillar 3 is called phase, because we're phasing out these anti-nutrients and doing carnivore short term. And then we reach the flex approach. So to your point in your question, like, how do you do it the right way? So there's different, I call, rules in the book. So for example, there's a rule called the 5-1-1 rule. And this is great for postmenopausal women and for men to practice this flexing approach. So how it works is it's a 7-day protocol. The 5 in this 5-1-1 rule is 5 days of intermittent fasting, like a 16-8 schedule, and then eating keto during your eating window. So you are in ketosis for 5 days. And then you have the first one, which is a 24-hour water fast, where you just go dinner to dinner, lunch to lunch, but you're doing a lot of fasting for a day. And then you have a flex day, which is one day out of the week. It could be any day where you're taking your carbohydrates over at least 100 grams to get yourself out of ketosis. You're not practicing fasting. You're feasting that day. And I've noticed actually the opposite of what people might think. People might think, isn't that going to cause me to store fat? Like, am I? Isn't? I've done all this work to do keto, and now you're telling me to get out of it. Like, isn't that going to be a problem? But no, because it reminds the body that it's not starving. The
Mm.
number one priority for the innate intelligence, the human body, is survival. The body will do everything to survive. For example, here's something interesting, Candice. The mitochondria are arguably the most important thing to consider when it comes to health. It's not only just energy factory, there's an intelligence to the mitochondria. It acts as a surveillance system to identify threats. So the mitochondria are that important when it comes to survival, that the cells that are most required for survival are the cells that have the most mitochondria. For example, most cells in the body have maybe a few hundred mitochondria in a single cell. There are regions in the brain cells that have over a million mitochondria because the brain is required for survival, to be alert, to be focused, to run from the predator or kill the predator. Then we have the eyeballs. Of course, that's required for survival. There's tens of thousands of mitochondria. And the ovaries have about 100,000 mitochondria in them because survival. So I say all this because survival is the name of the game. If you've been doing keto for too long, you've taught your innate intelligence that you only have one source of fuel supply, and that is fat. And then it's going to want to slow the burning of that fat because you only have been burning fat. You want to preserve that for survival. But when you have a keto flex day, it's like you remind me the innate intelligence, burn all this sugar for a day. And then you go back to fat and it ramps things up. So it actually does the opposite when you do it the right way. And there are different rules in the book for different people.